Okay, let's start creating few lines of code. Let's open the Xcode, File, New, Project, Single View Application, Code01, any name here. Next, Desktop, Create. Okay. Now we have our project here. On the left side, let's select main storyboard. Here we can see our layout. Okay, let's close this auxiliary selection screen. If your monitor is kind of small, you can go for iPhone SE, which is like the iPhone 5. That's not a problem because iPhone 5 has the same proportions of iPhone 6, 7 and so on. So can close this down again. Let's create our first lines of real code. Okay, so down here let's look for label, drag and drop. Let's make wider. Let's centralize. Okay, now with this button selected, on the right side select attributes and then let's center this label. Now we're gonna erase the word label, so it's gonna be like an empty button. Let's change the background to something a little darker. Okay, let's make this a little taller. Beautiful. Okay, now every screen, every layout must have a class connected to it, so we can write a code, and the code must be connected to a screen. So on this template, View Controller Swift is directly connected to our screen. So when we select the main storyboard again, select View Controller, and you choose this option here, you see that the class View Controller is connected to our code, to our screen. To see both together, we just open this assistant editor. Then we're gonna have our layout and the code side by side. Let me show you something before we go on. When you select View Controller, you can come to this option, the Show Connections Inspector. Then we can see that we have one connection with this screen. We have the view itself connected, and that's it. Now to connect our button to our code, just click on the button, right click, hold, and drag into your code. This is a outlet connection. Let's put a name, my label. And connect. Now we're gonna have a little code here, a line of code connecting our button to our code. Let's go back to the connections. We see now we have my label button connected and the view connected. So everything looks fine for now. Let's go back to attributes. We're gonna make something simple, but it is a line of code, so let's declare a variable. Let's say my first label equal to welcome. Everybody was expecting hello world, but I put a welcome here. So now every time a program starts to work, this function called view.load is the first one to be executed. So let's now change the value of our button to the value of this var here. Let's put a my label dot text equal my first label. Put a wrong label here, so label dot text, okay, equal to my first label. This means that when we start this app, welcome word is gonna appear inside our button. Okay, let me show you something else here. Let's close our code for now. If I change the size of the cell phone to iPhone 7, we see that, let me zoom out here. We see that it's not centered. Okay, if I go back to iPhone 5, then it's centered. So with this button selected, if we go to this option here, which is called Show the Size Inspector, this is how the button is going to be positioned inside of our screen when the cellular change the size, when the screen change the size. So if I unmark this constraint here, these are the constraints, then it's going to be centered. If I unmark here, it's going to be right in the middle of everything. So now if we change to iPhone 7, we see that the size keeps growing, but the button stays centered. We're gonna take a look on this more deeply in the future classes here. So for now, it's gonna be like that. The other option we can use to visualize this is gonna be, we open the Assistant Editor, then you click in here, preview. Let's collapse the side. Now we have we can zoom out this with 2 fingers on your mouse pad. We can add here, let's say iPhone 5. So now we have both side by side. Also, we can turn your device in the landscape and go back to portrait. So you see our button is always centered because we adjusted the constraints. So everything is centered now. Let's close this again. Let's open the other side. I'm gonna run this program and see if it's gonna work. What's gonna happen here? We're gonna get this variable first, my first label, with the value of welcome, and we are changing the value of our my label text, which is empty now, to this value of this variable. I'm gonna choose on my simulator iPhone 6. So let's play. Let me open the simulator. It should be run down here. Every time you change the size of your iPhone, the simulator is gonna actually simulate that the iPhone is turning on from 0. So this is our app. This is the starting screen, and then our screen with the button is gonna show up. Okay, welcome. So we have a code that did work on our previous layout. It is empty, and then we just added a variable to it. So it's fantastic. Let me talk a little bit about the simulator. Here we can do a few things. We can rotate the device. So you can simulate situations where you can see how your app's gonna look like. No, it's not a little bug. It's because I put the cell phone upside down. So let's turn right again. Okay, now let's see. If you find any problems with your simulator, you have the option to reset, and you can like go to the home screen again. Then you're gonna see your app, code 01, click, open. So this is a real simulator. It's gonna help you a lot developing your app. Let's close this, just stop, and then that's it. Let's go to the next chapter.